Hello, everyone. This is Gavagai. I'm here with Trey once more. And tonight's hangout, we're talking about, I guess, the Christian version of hell. Um, I put up a post here. I'll go ahead and screen share it just to kind of review the conversation and things. Um, so the post was a blog post, a blogger by the name of Bruce Gerenser. I've not heard of him before this. Someone else posted it, and I thought the blog was decent, and it also uh, kind of struck a chord with me just because one of the one of the things that really caused me to begin to question my own Christian faith was just thinking about the possible reality of eternal hell, in that sense, in the sense that it's described in the Bible. And so I reposted this, and Trey jumped in on the comment thread. And Trey, you said, let's see, what in the world does this mean? And what I had said was thinking about eternal. Oh, I meant it should have said damnation rather than domination. I think autocorrect got me on that one. For people just because they don't have a belief. And so my point, and I maybe we can pick it up from there. My point there was that as I understood Christianity, you really can't gain the passage into heaven and escape eternal damnation in hell without holding certain beliefs. And so I listed a set of beliefs that are kind of minimal, and I don't think that you can get to heaven without belief that the God of the Bible exists, believing in the concept of sin, without believing that you have to have certain beliefs about the existence and nature of Jesus, and then his death and resurrection are also kind of requisite in order to gain. So essentially, any one of those would be problematic as I understand Christian theology, to and prevent you from gaining access to heaven and escaping hell.
Yeah, the first thing that I had, and this is the thing that just perplexed me, and I feel a little better about it, but I'm not.
Boy, Trey, your audio is sketchy there.
Can you hear me better now? Maybe I can keep my head up.
No, it's still
scratchy. Is it unclear, or is it too?
It's just kind of garbly.
Oh.
Like I can kind of hear your words, but it's not clear.
Okay. This happened the other day as well. Let me jump out real quick and jump back in and see if that helps. Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Okay, I hope it's not my computer. Sometimes it maybe gets warm and has trouble. Okay, so my big problem was that the term, the first stumbling block I saw was that term you use, belief, and that's why I said, the first thing I said was, what do you mean by belief? And then you said, you need to believe that God, believe in sin, and believe in Christ and his propitiatory sacrifice. But when I hear that word from your mouth, I hear this word that says, trust in something because somebody tells you it's true. Is that what you're meaning when you're saying this?
I mean, not necessarily. Like, I don't know. I mean, you have to at some point gain access to these ideas, and I don't know how you would come about even coming to those beliefs unless you've been told by someone.
Yes.
And even if that entails just reading it directly from the text itself, like if you just happened across the Bible
Right.
and then said, "Oh, well, I believe this," but that you hold it as a belief, that you believe that it's true, that the Christian God exists, and that uh, Jesus provides his death and resurrection provide salvation, and without that you're destined for hell.
Okay, but the problem that I have is that you did it again. The way that you're wording this is as if it's an arbitrary preference that you can hold. And it sounds very postmodern the way you're speaking now. And that's what bothers me, because if God exists, is it true? If God exists, is it true objectively?
I mean, if he exists, then yes, it's true that he exists.
Okay. So is it a good thing to believe in that which is true? I'm not trying to play a trick here, but
I hold value in believing true things. Certainly.
Okay. So from my perspective, we cannot know anything without some degree of faith. Do you agree with that?
I don't like the word faith, because I don't think
trust.
Yeah, you have to have trust, and there are certain assumptions that you have to make just to get kind of out the door to enter into the realm of epistemology. Right. Absolutely.
And so I want to say that there are, you can't know anything with absolute certainty unless you're omniscient. None of us are omniscient. We all learn, we all make mistakes, we all, okay. But I'm also conceding that there is a huge spectrum of justified belief and unjustified belief. Within those two things, there's all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm sure you can see that.
Sure.
Okay. So for me, when I say belief in the propositional truth of the gospel, it's something that's terribly verifiable and concrete as propositional truth. So, for example, as we've talked about for God's existence, I don't think in Hebrews 11 it says that he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who seek him. And so some people will say, see, you just got to believe it, and then if you want to please God. But that's not really what Hebrews 11, from my perspective, is saying. It's not, the emphasis is not on believing in God, because Romans 1 says that everybody knows they're not self-existent. Everybody knows that they're dependent for their existence.
Well, those are, it's not parsed in those terms for sure in Romans.
Sure it is.
It doesn't say anything about self-existence.
Sure it does. It says that for what is known about God is made evident to them, for he has made it evident to them. For since the beginning of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen in the things that have been made, so they are without excuse. So in other words,
but that's not, that doesn't say anything. The word self-existence, or the phrase self-existent, is not contained in that passage.
The content, the concept of that we are dependent for our existence, that we were created, is absolutely what it's all about.
I would disagree with that.
It says creation testifies that there is a God. Without creation, without a creator, there is no creation.
Well,
and creation, by definition, is contingent. That's the whole point. You see,
you're introducing concepts that are not contained in the text. Now, I mean, it's you can make that argument, but that's not what it says.
Well, that is what it says. I just said that Romans 1 says that all men know that God exists because of creation. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree that that's what it says. Yes.
Okay. So if we know that there is a creation, what does that say about our existence? Everything was created. What does that say about our existence?
I mean, are you asking if that means that we are contingent?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're contingent no matter what, as human beings.
Right. And contingency is not self-existent, right?
Yeah, I guess that's right.
Okay. So I'm expressing this in a way that obviously you haven't heard before.
Well, no, I've heard it many times from you.
No, I'm saying other than me. You probably never heard it, right? I mean, that's why you said the text doesn't say it. But that's exactly what the text is saying. But all right, let's just say this. Everybody, according to Romans 1, everybody knows that God exists. Would you grant that?
I will grant that that's what it says, yes.
Okay, yeah. All right. So in Romans 11:6, it says, or not Romans, Hebrews 11:6, this is a faith chapter, it says, for he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who seek him. But since all men already know that God exists from Romans 1, Hebrews 11:6, the emphasis on what is being said there is, for he who comes to God must believe that he is. And
what translation do you have memorized?
I don't know.
Because I'm reading the New Living Translation.
No, that's not a translation. That's a paraphrase. Get a translation. Pick any one you want.
What translation do you like?
New American Standard is my favorite. That's the most literal, and it has the best textual backup.
Okay, I've got that.
I'm terrible at looking up stuff while I'm talking.
No, that's okay. I was looking it up, so I wanted to see. So that's the new NASB, right?
Yes.
And without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who seek him.
Yeah. So the content that we're looking for there is not that God exists, although there is. We all have to exercise faith in everything. But it's that God is a rewarder of those who seek him. In other words, that God is a good God. That's what makes him pleasing, that we believe in his goodness. I don't know if you remember that Jesus told the parable of the vineyard owner who went away and hired hirelings to take care of the vineyard, and he sends back some servants to take his part from the rent for the vineyard, and the vineyard tenants, beat him up and send him away. And then he sends another group and they beat him up, send him away. And he says, well, I'll send my son, and they will respect him for sure. And they kill him. And he says, what do you think the owner is going to do to them? And that's a parable about us. What are we going to do with God? Are we going to believe in his goodness, or are we not? So for me, faith, belief and faith is not something that's just like I feel like presuppositionalism does this. Essentially, it boils down to believe me because I say so. It's the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So let's take that vineyard example.
Okay.
I didn't beat up anyone. I didn't beat up any messengers. I have heard the text that claims to be a message from the deity you're talking about, and I don't believe that it's from a deity anymore. I used to, but now I've been persuaded that there's not good reason to believe that. So in my case, it would be the example would be, okay, someone sent a messenger, and the person who received the message didn't receive it because it didn't make sense, and he didn't believe that this other person who supposedly sent the messenger even exists.
Yeah, but the vineyard owners know that the owner exists, right? Don't they?
In the analogy, but that's part of the problem with the analogy is that I don't actually believe that there is a God. Yes, I genuinely don't believe that.
Yes, I know, but do you have good reason for such?
Yeah, I think I do.
Okay, so prove to me, Gavagai, that you're self-existent. Show me how that works.
I'm not self-existent.
All right, so how did you create yourself?
I didn't create myself.
Something
else created me.
Okay. And so therefore, that
My
which created you cannot be contingent, right?
my parents created me. So
Okay.
this,
We certainly have had this conversation. I
yeah,
have
we
had my
have,
oh,
and we
good.
disagree. So I would say,
Disagree.
yeah, we disagree because I would say that to me it seems more likely, and the better explanation is that um, matter and energy are the kind of eternal something, and that they have been just kind of recombining in throughout time and space, and has resulted in me and everything that came before me, and that's what's, quote unquote self-existent, if there's
Okay.
anything that's
So,
self-existent.
so you believe that there's an ontological being called matter energy
It's
that
not.
create
I mean, we know that matter and energy exist, right?
what? No, I don't know what energy is. Please tell me.
What is energy?
Hmm.
uh, Energy and matter are on some level, according to science, the same thing. That E equals mc squared is essentially breaks down to energy is matter, just in you know in a certain form,
Okay. Okay, but
essentially.
if you're gonna equate the two, I see I can't go there. I can maybe go that energy is a self-existent, but
Do
matter
you
cannot.
disagree with Einstein's theory of relativity? And
Well, no, I'm disagreeing that energy is self-existent. If you're going to say energy and matter are the same thing, because
well,
energy self-existence cannot be acted upon, and matter is continually morphing. I just
how do
proved
you know that
that. I
self-existence
just
can't be acted upon?
What's that?
How do you know that self-existence can't be acted upon?
Because if it's acted upon, it's subject to that which brings a change, right?
Well, if it's acting on itself, so matter interacts with matter.
If it's acting upon itself, then it's not simple, and if it's acting upon itself, it is contingent by definition because it's made up of parts. You cannot have self-existence be dependent on other things. In other words, it can't increase or decrease. So if it's acting upon itself, it's not simple. It must be simple.
What? Why?
Self-existence.
What? Where do you get that assumption from? And
I
how
didn't
do you
assumption. I'm reasoning it. It's just
It's
it's a simple, obvious reason.
no.
Something cannot be made up of parts. If it can increase or decrease, it is by contingent by definition because it is growing. And if it's growing, it's depending upon that which brings or takes away from.
Okay, so let me say this. Okay,
Okay.
imagine imagine that all of the water that exists on Earth. Imagine that it has always existed. Within Earth. Let's say the Earth was eternal,
Mhm.
and there was land and water, and the water would evaporate. And I mean, you can imagine this, right? That there's this body, and that the substance that the body is made of um, can go through cycles and shift and change, and but still water is still water. It's still 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen.
Mhm.
No matter if it's a liquid, a gas, or solid. If it's ice, it can move around. It can interact with itself. Maybe it beats against the land, and but in all of these recombinations, it's still H2O.
But it's changing in some sense, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. This is the whole thing. There cannot be any change whatsoever. Otherwise, it is
But that's
contingent by definition.
that's just an assertion. You
No,
don't.
you're just asserting something that's irrational.
Uh,
I am saying that if something is changing, it is dependent upon that which brings a change. Will you concede that?
no.
So, so something goes through a metamorphosis, but nothing is acting upon it.
Yeah, but just because something is being acted upon doesn't mean that it's contingent upon the thing that's acting on it.
Well, sure it does. When you when
No,
you when you go outside and the wind blows your hair,
my hair is not contingent on the wind.
oh, it is at that moment because it was reformed or rearranged by it, right?
That doesn't mean it's contingent upon. My hair can
Sure it
exist
does.
without wind. If I was born
No, no,
in a
no, no.
room.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying the effect. You were an effect to the wind. The wind affected or you were affected by the wind, which affected your hair, right?
Sure.
Okay, that's all I'm saying.
That doesn't mean that I'm contingent. I mean that
Your
my
your
hair,
hair at
your
that
hair,
moment was subject to the wind, not
yeah,
saying for its being, although it
right.
was changed. Even in its ontology, it was changed in some molecular structure by the wind. But even so, in any sense, do you see that? It's got to be dependent.
It doesn't. No, that doesn't mean it's dependent. That just means it's interacting.
It's interacting, but it is subject to the wind when it happens. I mean, I don't see how you can't see this. It's so simple.
I disagree with you there, but
Oh.
we've strayed off of the kind of the central topic of the hangout, which is whether or not hell.
Okay, okay, so I wanted to focus on belief, okay, but I want to move it along. And so for me, belief, let me just state this, and I'm not saying you have to agree with it. For me, belief is something that is must be justified with propositional, verifiable truth. So that's for me, and you may not agree with that, but that's for me. It's just not like this is the way you worded it in your post was almost like, yeah, there's this arbitrary thing like I've got to believe that Jello can fly, or else I will suffer judgment. And I don't think it's that way. I think it's a propositional, logical, rational concept. But we can move on from there. And remember, my next comment to you was trying to jump back and forth here.
Sure.
Um, that we don't go to hell for not believing in Jesus. Properly speaking, we go to hell because we are sinful. And the problem I have with your view on that is that you concede that there's such a thing as sin, although you don't call it sin. Would you
Well,
agree
yeah,
with
but
that?
I disagree with it. I mean, just uh, I mean, to me, it's this. What you're doing is slipping in this metaphysical construct behind the concept of right and wrong that I don't think is justified.
Okay.
I mean, it's essentially saying this is magically wrong,
Okay.
and because of that, we've affected the deity in such a way that it's upset him.
Right.
He wants to torture us for all of eternity because of it.
Right. And to you, that is unjust, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if I saw any being, no matter what or who or what its nature was, um, torturing another being for any length of time, I would say that's not appropriate. That's immoral.
Right.
I, I,
Because existence is intrinsically special, right?
no, I mean that has nothing to do with existence. That has to do with causing pain,
Causing pain. Why is causing pain bad?
because we dislike pain by definition.
Okay. Okay. But you can't give a reason for that. You just say that since I emote, I have this feeling that pain personally is a bad thing. Therefore, nobody should do such a thing as cause pain. Is that where you're coming from?
Well, I mean, would you disagree that it is a bad thing to cause pain when there's not really any good reason for it?
Sure. Yeah, of course I do, because I have a reason for it. I say that existence is special. It's teleological. We were created, and therefore that which is created is special by definition. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist.
Yeah, well, we have disagreement on that issue again. I mean, I think life is special to humans and most living organisms on the planet,
Right.
because if it wasn't, our species would die out.
Right. So it's important for our species to live.
Well, it's not important. Is not the right way to
It's important to you, isn't it?
articulate it. Yeah, it's important to me. I have a drive to exist and to live and be happy,
Mhm.
and to be healthy and well.
And do you have a justification for that?
I don't have the Well, I have an explanation for it.
No, but you have a justification. No,
I have.
you have a just so story.
I have. I mean, it's a logical.
It's not logical. It's
It's
emotive.
absolutely no. It's absolutely illogical. It's
Oh,
logical because
go ahead.
if we any population where existence, that biological drive wasn't there,
They would disappear.
would disappear. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's important for them to exist, right?
It's not that it's important. I mean, just like I mean, the fact that gravity draws bodies, matter together.
Yeah, but gravity's not personal.
It doesn't mean that gravity, or that matter being drawn to itself, is important.
But we're not talking about gravity. We're talking about Gavagai moralizing people. Gravity's not moralizing anybody.
Well, you're right, but this is the logical conclusion as biological creatures that have this drive. We can say this is a part of being human, right, because of what has come before us from an evolutionary perspective. And as rational thinking creatures, we can say, okay, well, we want X, and in order to get X, which is just kind of healthy wellness and happy existence, we can put in place certain safeguards to try and facilitate and what's the word?
Facilitate. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that we can accomplish that in our cultures and societies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, all you're doing is just saying that's the way it is because that's the way it is, but you're not giving a reason. You're just saying it all exists real importantly because everything is meaningless. I mean, that's essentially...
You're inserting the word important there. I'm saying it's...
Facilitation for the goal of existence.
It's not just existence. It's not mere existence.
When I talk about existence, I'm talking about happiness. I'm talking about flourishing.
Yes.
The goal of flourishing is
yes.
teleology. It's a purpose. If it were possible for you, Gavagai, to create a way for humans to live forever, would that be an admirable goal for you?
Well, not necessarily.
I'm not talking about existing where you're miserable. Existing where you are pleasured. Let's say that you have something that you love to do, like you like to build model airplanes, and at the happiest part, when you've just made your model airplane, and you're flying it, and you're having pleasure. If you could make it so that you could have that type of feeling of purposeness, remember that what I said, purposeness, and happiness and fulfillment for eternity, and you would not get bored, would you seek for that?
Yeah, I don't know that that's sustainable.
No, I'm not saying whether it's possible. I'm saying if it were possible. In other words, you're trying to make your life live as long as you can. Every society does, don't you?
Well, within certain, with certain
you just can't
qualifications.
See it. Sure.
With certain qualifications. So, like, my grandmother is very old.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that.
I love my grandmother, but her life is
right.
She's hanging on by a thread. She's not uncomfortable, which is a good thing.
Right.
But there may come a time when she becomes so uncomfortable that if I were in her shoes, and I can't make this decision for her because she's, she has certain beliefs. She's a very, very devout Christian, and the idea of terminating her existence because of discomfort, I think, is not something that she would even consider. I don't know for sure, but that's my...
But there comes a point in your type where she is about to die, and you can kind of, take your hands off and let it...
Right.
There's a time to die.
We can prolong...
We don't like it, but there's a time to die.
Yeah, we can medically prolong people's lives well beyond what, we maybe should because of their suffering and things.
Yeah.
So we don't extend people's lives absolutely for as long as possible. We allow people to die when they could be, their lives could be extended further for that reason, because we want to, live comfortably.
Hmm. So my point is saying that you don't like the word teleology, and I'll even take teleonomy. It doesn't really matter to me. But that's what you're seeking. And then you turn right around at the same time and say, oh, well, it's not true. It's just a fantasy that we have. Somehow, for some crazy reason, we have this purpose, but really it's not a purpose at all. It's just an emotion that we have that doesn't really correspond to reality. Of course, if somebody kills somebody and breaks that law, we want to punish them. It's completely contradictory. It makes no sense whatsoever.
No, so to call it a purpose, I think is a mischaracterization. I think that it's more accurate to say we have a drive, we have a desire, and I think
but it's toward a goal, right?
It's biological in nature. Just like, I get hungry.
Right. And that's a goal. That's exactly right. That's fine with me too. Because telos just means end, means, or limit. In other words, it just says that there's something that is moving. It's a carrot that you are moving toward, and that it's purpose.
Well, and I say that's where I disagree. I think that it's not necessarily purpose. It's just it's a biological drive. Just like I have a biological drive to sleep. I have a biological drive to have sex.
But that's not giving any answer at all. That's just saying the reason that I do this is because that's the way that I am. It's circular argument.
It's part of my nature.
Right.
And the nature is
it's derived. Like somebody says the Bible is the word of God because the Bible is God's word to us.
No, because there's further explanation that can be offered up based on the science of evolution.
Oh, go ahead and tell me. You haven't told me yet.
I have, and other people have told you as well, that we have these things because creatures and species and populations where this is not prevalent, they are bred out of existence.
And that's a bad thing. I mean,
it's not that it's bad.
It's a good thing. It's either good or bad. What is it?
No, it's not. I mean, is it good or bad that water flows downhill rather than uphill?
If you say that it's neither good nor bad, then why is it so important to you? Why did you give the reason?
I don't understand how you don't get this.
Oh yeah, I'm just stupid, I guess.
Well, it's been explained and explained and explained to you.
It's been.
I mean, it's
grasping at straws and grasping at straws.
No, it's the way nature works. I mean, it's like if we were. If our only food source was grass, and we ended up with fangs, and couldn't eat or couldn't digest the grass, we would die out because we couldn't get proper nutrition and things. So we evolve to consume the things that are available to us, and as our food sources and things change and shift, evolution will provide differences within the population, and the ones that are more successful, those are spread and spread out through the population. And if you have different populations and the populations become divided and separated because of geography or what have you, and one population has access to certain resources or maybe is threatened by a certain something that the other population is not threatened by, evolution will change that population and it will shift, and there will be adaptations. I mean, we see that in Africa with malaria and sickle cell anemia.
Yeah. So,
and that's within human populations.
Yeah, but I'm not asking about natural selections picking things up. I'm talking about the volition of Gavagai to value that and actually work things around, not just because they don't survive, but actually, buying a diamond ring for his wife, wondering at the glory of the Grand Canyon, um, crying at the birth of his child. Those types of things are distinctly value-oriented and teleological. And it's
Well,
not like gravity.
yeah, I mean, we've the human species is different than a lot of the other creatures in the animal kingdom, and I think that has happened as a result of language, as a result of our capacity to reason, and reason abstractly. Um, you know, I don't know that other animals look at the Grand Canyon in the way that we would, but I think
But I
that
think they do have the same sense of wonder.
do
It's
you?
a lesser level.
I
Sure, when your dog comes home, does he not wonder at your glory? Mine did.
I don't know that he wonders at my glory. I think he's excited because he's been bored while I was away, and also knows that he'd probably be able to eat soon.
Yeah, it's a much lesser level, but it's the same thing. I mean,
I don't think
did
that
you see
that's
that?
necessarily true.
I just saw a video yesterday of a woman, or today, maybe I put it on Facebook. I don't know if you saw it, but a lady in some country uh, found a baby lion and she nursed it back to health and put it on a wildlife reserve. And when she came to see the lion, this huge lion ran up to the fence. It was like a barred fence, and
Mhm.
threw his paws around her and grabbed her and hugged her
Yeah, I think I've
and
seen
loved her.
that.
It
Well,
was
I
beautiful.
I think animals, and particularly certain mammals, are capable of showing affection. Um, I would definitely agree with that. But whether they recognize beauty or something like that, I don't know. I don't know that that's.
Well,
I've not
I mean,
seen
it's very
anything to
rudimentary
indicate
level.
that.
Anyway, yeah, it's kind of a side anyway. But it doesn't really matter to me. It's just the fact that it exists, that teleological or volitional goaling for a universe that has no goal is utterly incoherent. It's incongruent. It's an incongruent worldview. And contradiction is the sure sign of a failed worldview.
I don't think that it's contradictory at all. I think that um, I think that we our biological desires are are the result of evolution, and that we, as thinking and reasoning beings, have converted those desires into goals because we are volitional in some sense, and and that's just on us. I don't think that the universe um, has to kind of put that into us any more than that it makes sense to say that there has to be purpose in water, seeking the lowest point, or flowing to the oceans or lakes. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not equivocating that.
but
That's different.
well, but why? But why is it different in that case than it is in our case?
Well, I think everything is purposive, but for my um, purposes here for this argument, I am focusing on the very clear and plain teleology of many of those in the bios and in the life categories, particularly humans, really crown of creation in that sense. And so we exhibit more than others, but that's what I want to focus on.
Your your audio got garbly again.
Okay, hold on, let me try turning down my bandwidth. Does that help? Any
No,
better?
no,
No, no.
no.
Okay, let me jump out. Is it
Uh,
better?
Talk some
Is it
more.
better? Hello, hello, hello. Testing.
Yeah, that's
Hello,
better.
hello, hello. Okay. I'm gonna keep my thing down. It might be my computer. I don't know.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, you can also hit F5 on your keyboard, and that refreshes.
Oh,
It's a little bit easier than jumping in and out.
what does F5 do? Does it kick me out?
No, it just kind of refreshes the
Oh,
your browser screen,
okay,
and it acts like jumping in and out, but
okay,
is a smoother and easier thing.
okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're talking about. Um, all right, I wanted to talk about. Um, all right. So from your perspective, I want you to discuss with me how your system of justice works.
So because we have these desires to live and thrive and flourish,
Mhm.
um, we can we can look around and look back at history and see, what systems have been pulled in the past, um, what seems to work the best for promoting human well-being and happiness,
Mhm.
seems to be when we allow each other um, to have as much liberty and freedom as possible, and that's I think we can derive that through reason, and then two, because we know that power does tend to corrupt, and we can see that historically, that we can put things in checks and balances. I mean, I think our system of government in the United States and in most Western countries seems to be pretty good. There are obviously certain problems, um, but that's the best we've come up with so far, in my view. And when we have limitations put on the government that guarantee, okay, your rights, in this list will not be infringed upon by the government. You have the right to stand before your accusers and the right to a trial if you are accused. All of these things I think are reasonable,
Mhm.
and um, and as long as we are not infringing on each other's rights, to kind of live in harmony and pursue happiness. I think that's kind of the best model. The um the best, in my view, the best expression of justice, or kind of articulation of a system that I think yields justice is John. Oh shoot, a theory of justice is what it's called. Hang on, I'm just blanked out. Um, John Rawls. Thank you, Google. But yeah, and I don't know why I blanked out on that because I talk about John Rawls all the time.
Mhm.
But John Rawls' a theory of justice is just an excellent model, and what he proposes is that we do our best to kind of go through the process of a thought experiment, essentially removing ourselves from society, um, and and saying no matter where I land in the society, I might be a male, I might be a female, I might be religious, I might be, of any ethnicity or education level, or um, in poverty or in wealth. What I would want to do is to come up with a set of rules that I would deem fair, no matter where I landed within that society.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's essentially, um, it's basically like the golden rule. So, but it's pulling yourself out and trying to put yourself in the shoes of other people, to go through that. I mean, one of the problems with the golden rule, as it's articulated, like in the Bible and in some other places, is that it emphasizes yourself rather than the other person. and Nadia, I think, gives a somewhat entertaining illustration of the problem with that parsing of the golden rule or whatever. But because from her perspective, she would say, if I treated you like I wanted to be treated myself, I would go around and castrate males and give them breast implants, because that's what.
You completely missed the point, and so did Nadia. Completely missed the point. What is the golden rule attended with? What other rule?
To love the Lord your God with all your heart.
Okay, so which one is first?
Well, it's listed as the first in the Bible. For sure.
First and the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. The second is like unto it, love your neighbor as yourself. So can you take the second commandment out of context and say whatever you want, so that someone who is an axe murderer who likes, or somebody who's a sadomasochist or something, and can you apply the golden rule to a sadomasochist?
Say it again. I mean, I kind of understand what you're saying, but that's the problem with parsing a moral rule in those terms. I mean, you can say, well, if you're loving this God with all your heart, soul, and strength, or whatever, that you wouldn't do these negative things. But we've seen throughout history and even in the Bible that people who supposedly were men after God's own heart did horrible, terrible things, and even did terrible things to other people with the approval of the deity. So it's difficult to say
by command of the deity,
right?
And was there a reason why there was a command by the deity?
Yeah, well, I mean,
a reason. Remember, I said reason. Was there a reason for that? I'm a really reasonable guy.
You can make reasons up, but I
no.
don't know.
I'm talking about in a biblical text. Was there a reason why the deity told them to kill others?
There are some reasons given.
Okay. I mean, so it was reasonable, right? You just don't like.
No, I don't accept those reasons as reasonable.
Okay.
I don't accept, because people are living in a land that is allegedly promised by a deity to another group of people, that gives them the moral authority to go in and slaughter.
Well, is God under obligation to give you one more moment of life if in fact he does? I'm saying if he does.
Is he under obligation?
In other words, every moment that you have is a gift, right?
I think that I think that a being that creates other beings that have the experiential existence that we have does have a moral obligation to those beings and creatures. If a scientist was able to create intelligent computer that could had sensations and could feel pain and fear, I don't think that the scientist is justified in just causing pain and fear to that entity, just because he's the one that created that being.
But you're presupposing an objective standard that the creator must follow. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, if it's not objective, then I mean, just based on reason and rationality, would that being, that creator being, like to be treated the same way?
Yes, if in fact that being were contingent. This is the big difference. You've got two categories of existence. If you're going to say that that God is a man, and that man, I mean, I can't even imagine how you could articulate that. How can God be fallible in such a way that he could be punished?
Well, I think that the deity described in the Bible is certainly fallible.
So he fails himself. He fails himself, right?
Well, he fails the standard of morality that any reasonable person would.
Yeah, but no, Gavagai, you're assuming the consequence at the beginning. You're saying there is this moral law that we all have been created for.
No.
and that we should keep it, but God doesn't keep it. In other words, you're assuming God so that you can judge God.
I'm not assuming God. I'm assuming reason.
Okay,
And
but the reason is based upon the sanctity of existence,
no,
right?
no,
It's not.
no. It's based on
You just said
reciprocity.
if somebody creates a computer, that computer's existence is special, and if he damages that existence of that computer by torturing it or whatever, then he is sinning in a sense. He's doing what is wrong.
He's doing something wrong. Yes.
Okay, and he's not respecting the sanctity of existence, right?
He's not. He's not respecting the. I don't know that sanctity is the right word. That's again another loaded word that
What word would you like?
Just respecting the existence of another.
The specialness? You're saying it's special, but you don't like that word either, probably.
Well, it's better than sanctity. I mean, sanctity is
okay.
full of.
So then that which exists is special by intrinsically, right?
Well, just existence, no, but existence, intelligence, and the capacity to feel and sense and
is intrinsically valuable, right?
It's not intrinsically valuable, but because we have this experience. I mean, just in medieval times, one form of entertainment that they had was torturing cats. They would hold up cats in a cage at festivals and events and things, and lower the cat over a fire, and just laugh and have a good time listening to this cat screech and scream as it was dropped into the flames until it just became a charred, crispy critter.
Well, they do that. Well, they did it with people.
Yeah,
they do that today with do that with people with monkeys in Central America. They'll put them in a table with a hole in the middle, and they'll beat the monkey to death and then eat its brains out.
Yeah,
and screaming and holler.
Yeah, yeah. I just for the
why
fact
why do you recoil at that though?
Because I have empathy toward that.
I know you do, but I'm saying why?
Why? Because I have experienced pain myself, and fear, and it's not pleasant. And I can put myself in the place of that other creature, and I don't want it to happen to me, and I would like to prevent it from happening to other creatures that have the same capacity for pain and fear and discomfort.
Okay, we're just going around in circles. Because I'm saying the same thing, and then you just say the same thing. And I like to keep my hangouts like an hour, though. But do you want to continue to go, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, well, we've not been on for quite an hour, but and we can wrap it up soon. But I don't think that you've really fully addressed my initial objection, because from.
Okay, yeah, let's move on a little bit. All right, so your initial objection is that there's such a thing as a Christian hell that torments people for eternity.
Well, and not only that, but I mean, I think eternal punishment in and of itself is unjustified no matter what. Mm-hmm. Punishing for eternity is not appropriate, especially given the fact that we have finite lives. It's immoral.
It's immoral. You just can't see it, can you? Okay. All right. So it's immoral. It's sinful, if you will.
But that was the first statement. The second is that the fact that according to the Christian Bible, what determines your eternal fate is this set of proper beliefs, and it's not based. Whatever you've done doesn't matter as long as you have this certain set of beliefs and attitudes.
No, that's not true. What I hear you saying, and maybe you're not meaning to say that, is that someone can live a wicked life, and then on their deathbed, I say trust in Jesus, and it's all forgiven, and they go to heaven.
If they're sincere, is that mistaken?
Well, I think that you your expression of Christianity was charismatic, was it not?
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna have a difference there. I'm a Calvinist, and so it's a really important doctrine for me because I was saved in a charismatic church and was very much a part of it, but I've since left that expression. I'm not saying they're not Christians. I'm just saying I don't think it's a careful theological construct systematically. So if for me, the doctrine of election is that God has foreordained certain people to salvation, certain people for judgment before the foundations of the world. And that's his prerogative. It's not mine, and I can't know who it is or what reason it is. But if somebody were born, and let's say God created one man, and that one man did one sin, and then God provided a substitutionary sacrifice. Well, the only way you can have substitution is you got to have a substitution sinner, and you got to have a substitution. There's got to be an Adam who messed it up, and there's got to be a Jesus who can do it with substitutionary atonement. If somehow he could make it right for one person after doing one sin, would that be okay for you?
No, because I think that this idea of substituting one person and having one person receive the punishment is a terrible and immoral idea in and of itself. I mean, just like I wouldn't say, okay, Johnny, my son, you've done something bad and wicked, but my other son, Joe, didn't do that wicked thing, and so he has suggested that he loves you and he wants to have the punishment given to him instead. So Johnny, you're free as long as you accept this. And Joe, I'm going to whip you for several hours to punish you for Johnny's crime or immoral act.
And the brother said, I didn't get the names right. The brother said, I would like to step in his place and take the punishment for his bad actions.
Yeah, that would be a terrible, terrible parent. Or if it was in a judicial situation, a judge that would be immoral, because that's not. It's ludicrous. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, let's change the analogy. Let's imagine there's a woman who gets a speeding ticket, and she's has no money, and the judge says, okay, you need to pay $200 or go 3 days in jail, and the judge she has not the money, and she is in a situation where she cannot leave. She has a child, and it would be a great hardship for her to do it. And the judge were to say, I would, if he takes off his robe and goes down and takes money out of his wallet and places it on the table and goes back, the debt has been paid, has it not?
Well, yeah, but the debt is to the state in that case. The analogy is somewhat problematic there, I think, but I understand what you're saying. And
okay, let's imagine. All right, let's talk about representative justice. When you go to court, well, let's say this. Let's say Guido hires a hitman to go and kill his old girlfriend Gloria, and the hitman goes, and Guido's in Florida, and Gloria's in California, and the hitman goes and kills Gloria. Does Guido need to be present in order to be charged with murder?
Culpable? Well,
no charge. Does he need to be present in order to be charged?
He would be charged with conspiracy to commit murder in that case, I think, right?
Yes, and he would be culpable for that murder in some sense. Okay, so it's not necessary actually to be present in order to have guilt given to you, right?
No, but both men would be guilty in that case.
Okay. Now, if you had someone, I'm changing scenes here. If you had, when you go to court, you have someone to represent you. You hire a lawyer, and that lawyer, irrespective of what you do, I mean, you have the thing that you're guilty for, but irrespective of your representation, that lawyer's performance could either deem you justified or condemned. Is that correct?
Well, if not ideally, if the law is functioning the way it's intended to, your guilt or innocence will be determined by the reality, the fact of the matter.
But that representation has a bearing on your outcome, right?
Well, it can have an effect on the the outcome relative to that ideal, but it's potential that it could corrupt and cause problems with the ideal situation. So if you have a very gifted lawyer who is willing to you know represent you in a way that twists the facts and confuses the jury. I mean, just like I think O.J. Simpson was guilty, but he had very skilled lawyers who obfuscated the truth,
Right.
and for that reason he got off in his criminal trial.
Right. And so your representation either way can deem you will have an effect on the outcome of the trial. When you elect somebody, when you elect a representative, and they make decisions for you, that has a direct outcome on your well-being, does it not?
Yeah, but we would say in that case, if you were guilty and your representation was successful in you know garnering an unjust decision, justice wasn't done.
No, and I'm not speaking necessarily to justice in the ultimate sense. I'm saying that you have justified representation in all of those situations, and that representation has a bearing on the justice being given to you. You agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So representative in a system of justice is a justified and viable possibility, right? You don't like Adam's representation necessarily, if you grant that, but you do agree that it is possible for representation to have an outcome on you in a justice sense.
Well, but there's legal representation is there because your lawyer has a better understanding of the law and
But it's representation. That's all I'm saying. You've got representative that is your representative. That it's not you. I mean, it's your case, and they are for you, but they are not you.
That's true.
Person.
Yes.
So, and we say that is a wonderful expression of justice.
Well,
I'm saying if everything goes right,
positive. It's a positive thing because ordinary lay people are not versed in the law well enough to represent themselves well in a legal proceeding.
Right.
So we need that help.
Mm-hmm. So representative. For example, so we're going back to where you said that it's not possible to have representative. I can't think of the word I want, but it's like representative. Justice.
Replacement sacrifice or replacement punishment is not the same thing. That's a totally different thing. Your lawyer doesn't take the punishment for you if he succeeds.
Sure. But okay, so let's imagine the judge is an absolutely just judge. He cannot overlook sin. But he is not able to allow sin because he's holy to go unpunished. Is it his prerogative, though, to take the punishment of another if he wanted to? Say, for example, use the example of the son, and the two boys and one brother saying, I want to take his punishment. And that the son who is guilty sees his brother doing that, and he's moved to compassion for that. And the outcome is existence. In other words, benefit. Is the judge at liberty to do something like that?
Not a moral judge, I would say.
So you say the father was immoral for doing that. If it brought about the brokenness of the real guilty brother, and he changed his life because of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, this kind of thing was actually practiced in medieval times. A prince would have a whipping boy, essentially, who would take his punishment for him, and they would say, "Oh, you've been naughty, but you can't spank royalty." And so they would go out and whip the boy that was in his place. And do you know what happened in those cases when that kind of thing occurred? That prince grew up thinking that he was untouchable, and they were often very, very horrible, wicked people when
And
they
so,
came to adulthood.
okay, you just made my point. You don't realize that?
In what way?
Remember what I said. The outcome was that the guilty repented, that the guilty was broken. I'm not talking about using all this construct here just to try to get away from justice. I'm talking about true justice being done in such a way that it promotes existence. Everything about Trey Jadlow's existence, I want you to remember that, if anything. Existence, existence, existence. Everything I believe is about the promotion of existence. My love of God is a love of the one who gives everything to all men, and he is glorious because he is existence. He doesn't have existence. We have existence. He is existence.
That sentence doesn't even make sense.
Sure does.
A being is existence.
No, it is, because he is the superlative. I said superfluous in another one a few months ago. It's funny. Somebody caught me on it. No, he is the superlative of existence. In other words, he's not, for example, for us, we have existence. It comes and it goes. Same thing with love. For us, we experience love. We move from one state of love, then we move out of it and we go into hatred or to less than love or something like that. God doesn't have love. God is love. He is the superlative. Self-existence does not change. And so everything that God is, he is in and of himself. He is identical with his attributes. And he is simple. That's the whole point of it. So doesn't have existence. He doesn't move from one point of gaining some more existence and losing a little bit. He is existence. That's what he is.
Yeah, I still think that doesn't make any kind of sense at all.
It makes beautiful, crystal clear sense to me.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. Can we start shutting this down? I gotta make
absolutely,
tomorrow for sure.
Absolutely. I've enjoyed the talk, and I don't know. Have any closing thoughts?
Let's see. No. I wish I could have shown you my son's knives. I told Gavagai before we started, my son's out in the back. I don't know if you heard at the beginning of the hangout. Anybody was watching this?
Yeah, that was before we went live.
Hey, you got a knife there, son? And he and his buddy were out in the back, and they were forging some knives with their homemade YouTube forge, and they're making knives. It's really cool. I thought it was really fun. No, but I regarding our hangout, no, I always we have our differences, Gavagai, but I think we have a mutual respect and admiration for each other, and it's always enjoyable talking to you because it's an adult conversation, and it's challenging and enjoyable. So I am grateful for your friendship and for your allowing me the opportunity to engage with you.
Yeah, and it's the same here. You get a rough time of it from some of the other atheists.
Oh, I bring it on. I do the WWF stuff. I like that too.
I'm not that way, but I enjoy having these conversations, and there are so many Christians who won't even engage. They won't get into a hangout with me. So I appreciate that.
Okay, let me show you. This is it's still hot. And he's out there pounding it. He wanted an anvil for his birthday. And so who bought you the anvil?
I bought it.
Oh, he bought his own anvil. And he's out there in the backyard. And so he made this little forge out of a paint can. And he's got a hairdryer blowing in a hole in the side and coals in there. And it's a little forge in there. And then this one he made out of a railroad spike.
Wow.
Anyway,
that's pretty cool.
It's at the rudimentary stage, but he's planning on being a smithy here and making knives. So
yeah,
anyway.
I enjoy. I don't have any skills like that, but I do enjoy. I've seen some. There was a YouTube video that I saw a month or two ago now, where a guy just went out into the woods and built himself a cabin just out of all raw materials. He made all of his own tools. He made an axe out of stone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, he did everything himself.
from absolute scratch. He even built a brick fireplace. He made his own kiln. He made the bricks. He baked the bricks in the kiln. I mean,
Wow.
yeah, and
Send
it
me the
was.
link if you remember it.
Yeah,
If you can find
I will. I'll try to do that. It's interesting.
Well, let me tell you, we went camping on a father-son camp out last week or 2 weekends ago, and we went up to Jamesport, which is in Missouri, and it's like an Amish country.
Oh yeah.
And in a park, we stopped at this house, and it was fascinating. They had moved it from somewhere else, but the whole house was made. It was a log cabin, but it was made out of planks. But it took them like 9 years to make it. And the guy he was married, had 10 kids, and a servant. And it was probably 20 by 20, and it was 2 very tall stories high. It had a hearth, had a fireplace. It was absolutely huge, and every corner had I don't know what that's called, but when you have like a male and a female, and each board fits in, and it's like a V. I don't know if
Like
that's
a dovetail or something.
It was
right?
dovetail.
Yeah.
Each joint was dovetailed, and it was over 100 years old. It was so fascinating that man, all those people lived in that house, and it was just a frontiersman, and the quality of work was just it was so pleasurable to looking at that stuff. There's something about handmade stuff that just
Yeah.
just is marvelous. So anyway, okay.
All right. Well, on that note, we'll call it a night, and again, enjoyed the talk, and thanks for. I think we only had one viewer. We maybe maxed out at 2, but for, other people will watch as the video lives on.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay,
All
man.
right.
All right. See you guys.
Have a good night.
All right. Bye.